Hey PEG TV viewers, it's Carrie Clark coming to you again for another episode of The Healing Power of Divorce. This month's topic is all about good friends are essential to your survival, and I am so extremely grateful that I have two of my close friends here with me today to share their stories. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Tara.
Hello, I'm Anne.
And this month's topic is all about how our experiences are very different but the same. We all have filed for divorce. We all went through the emotion of signing that final little piece of paper and feeling that just bucket load of emotions. And when I say bucket load of emotions, I went from feeling shame, feeling embarrassment, to feeling, excited about my new life. And every day that I woke up, was a different emotion. And I tried my hardest to control my emotions, but I wavered. I had a lot of doubt in myself. I had a lot of struggle trying to build this new life. And what was essential in my growth was my friends. And like I said, I am very grateful that they are also sharing their story along with my story. So I'm going to begin with the person to my right here. We're just going to open up the dialogue. Now, before we all start talking, I want to just let you know, I have these cards in my hands, but none of us rehearse this. None of us know exactly what we're going to say. Everyone has some complete nerves, and we are feeling it. We need to calm down and just look at what is it that we can relate to you as a PEG TV viewer. So, Anne, Tara, what do you guys want to kick this off with? I mean, if we go back to when you guys filed for divorce, I know I was telling somebody about the first time I went to a social event and I walked in the room without my wedding ring. I felt so much like a failure. I felt like, I'm this person. Why can't I stay married? What is it about me that I couldn't work out in my relationship? How can you guys reflect back on the first time that you guys...
Well, for me, it wasn't a social event. I was not social. I had young kids at home, and I kind of withdrew for a long time out of shame and nerves and just being out of your mind, not knowing how to handle this part of life. I did end up going to some support groups, different 12-step support groups and other types of support groups, which saved my life. I really have to say, saved my life.
Yes, and I can completely relate to that. I can tell you that part of my, getting through the tough moments was I also reached out to a 12-step program, and I was so in dire, just down on myself. I was going every single night to some 12-step program because I could not feel the emotion of being home by myself. It was too much for me at that point. And you also, Anne, did the same thing as I did.
Yeah, I went a lot, and at first they used to tease me because I would just sit there on the table and just cry quietly to myself while everyone else talked in the room, and eventually I began to be able to share and talk about things. It was, once you start talking with people about it, you realize everyone knows someone that's going through something similar as you are. And that helps to take away the shame of, why can't I handle this? And I need to do this all by myself. And starts your support network. That's where my support network really began to start.
Yes, yes. And the thing that I ended up doing was I had a hard time reaching out for help. I really had a hard time, even though, I had friends, I had a hard time telling them exactly what was happening. I, remember that someone asking me, you know, what's going on, and I had said to the one person, my ex-husband had moved out and we were having problems, and she said to me, why is it that people can't be honest and stop living in this fairy tale relationship, and that we all struggle with relationship problems? And I remember, looking at her saying, why did it take me so long to tell my friends that I was struggling? I was really having, these relationship problems, and I was not equipped. I was just, I don't know, Tara, if you...
Yeah, I'm similar to Ann. I definitely isolated myself, and I had a small child at home when I was going through my divorce, and didn't reach out to friends. I felt like I was a burden to them, like they didn't want to hear my problems, and so actually, and it really did not work well for me, because I ended up getting back with my husband back and forth, and it was just detrimental to my life, to my son's life, to my ex-husband's life. It just didn't help anybody. And when I finally realized that I could reach out to girlfriends, and they were really there for me, and they didn't mind me calling on them and asking them for help, and asking them to just go out and have a cup of coffee with me, just to let me talk, my whole life started changing. It really did, and a whole world opened up, and I knew I had that support. It was just really just amazing. So, and I also, like you guys, I did a 12-step program as well. I didn't go to that for very long. I didn't, I was, again, like you, I really didn't share a whole lot. I didn't feel very comfortable. But at that time, I was so depressed and so, insecure, that I just, isolation was what I did, and which is unfortunate. But so don't isolate. Really don't isolate. Reach out to your girlfriends and your guy friends, or whoever it is, and let them be a part of your life.
I think for me, it helped initially to go to the 12 steps, because the 12-step programs, or the support groups that I went to, because that gave me a feeling of I'm not the only one going through this, and people start coming out of the woodwork really when you start talking about it, and then that gave me the courage to talk to my friends, and realize that I wasn't being a burden, because I felt the same way. I have to talk to someone, but they're going to be like, "Oh my God, what's your problem?" But just getting used to naming things in support groups, going to a counselor, doing what you need to do to get the reality of the situation, that it's not just you, and that it's not some strange thing that is going on in life, that it is a very common phenomenon in life.
Right. Well, like I said in my first episode, 50% of the American population, and I'm actually probably at this point, it's more than 50%, has filed for divorce at least once. So, the fact that society, we don't talk about it. We don't, we try to navigate this by ourselves. And it's really, what's funny about it is when you're vulnerable and you're talking to even complete strangers, and you say, I'm going through a divorce. It's not that you're, telling them every little tidbit about your life, but you have common ground. They know what it feels like. They know, we had said before when we first were sitting here, this was like the hardest decision of my life. I remember, when I had filed for divorce and I saw the names on the piece of paper, I couldn't believe it. It was shocking to me that I saw, our names there. I had the worst time just accepting it, really. My reality, everything that I had known for such a long time. And that's another thing, that's essential with friends is we all went through building a new normal. We all, what has been essential for me is I'm always doing something with my friends. And instead of, I reflected on this last night with myself, you can be in a relationship and be lonely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I found that, in my own healing, that you can be with someone and it doesn't mean that you're not still lonely. And what's different about, when you're in a relationship is with a friend, that's taken right off the table.
Yeah.
Your close friends, you're not, it's a different dynamic. And I found that it's essential to have that dynamic with your friends. It's really, I don't know how anyone makes it through a full divorce without having the support of their friends. And it's just essential to recovery.
Well, what you just said about being in a relationship or in a marriage and still being lonely, that was a turning point for me in that someone said to me, because I was in a group and sharing about how, oh gosh, if I get divorced, it's going to be so lonely and everything. And one of my friends in the group said, well, you've been struggling with this for years and you're in a lonely marriage. What's going to be different?
That's right.
Yeah.
That was an epiphany for me at that time.
Yes, and what's funny about that is your friends are honest with you.
They are, and that makes a world of difference, even if you don't want to hear it.
Yes.
And I think when I was actually married, I was more isolated and more lonely than I was after I got divorced, because my friends just opened up a whole new world to me. We talk about things I would never talk about with different people. We go and do things that I wouldn't normally do, and it's just great. It's just, and I'm in a relationship now, and in the past I would kind of, again, like always be about the guy and not reach out to my girlfriends. I don't do that anymore.
Amen to that! Oh, God, that's great. That's great. That's really...
Just is a sign of health. It's a sign of psychological health and,
Yes.
emotional health. And that's how we all should be, whether we've gone through a divorce or not, really is how we should be as people in relationships with other people.
Right.
Right, and when you have that unconditional backing, of your friends. I don't know about our PEG TV viewers out there. When I have, these just friends that will walk through fire, as these two girls are, I feel like I can accomplish anything, and I question why, I never felt like I deserved that in the past. And it really, in my own progress, in my own reflection on choices I've made, I wondered, what is it that kept me from, telling someone my secrets and kept me from, being kind of isolated in this box of just trying to navigate all these emotions and feeling like I was equipped to do it by myself.
I think you feel that sense of vulnerability where you're putting yourself out there and you don't know how people are going to react to you, and I don't know, I almost felt kind of guilty, again, just like trying to unburden myself on friends, and like, oh, they're going to hear this story again, or
Right.
But they really, I found that they really didn't mind helping me, and I'm always there for my friends as well, so
Right, and you don't think
know?
anything weird of
Right,
it. You want to be there
exactly.
for them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you really, and that's where I said to myself, if someone called me and asked me for help, I would do whatever I could absolutely do to help them. And why I didn't think that I was deserving of that reciprocated help was just like, it blew my mind. Well, this topic, as you can see, can go on and on. It's a really, really deep topic, and I have to say, my friends today get total gold stars because the amount of vulnerability that both of them just exposed warms my heart, because I feel the love. And the one thing that I always say about my friends is you never tell them on a regular basis that you love them, but I want these girls to know today that I love them. They mean something to me.
I love you too.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next month. Hey, it's Carrie again for another week of Facebook Live. This week's topic is all about how isolation and your housekeeping habits. And I got this topic from my Courage to Change book, and the reading that I got it from was August 10th, and the reading goes like this. At an Al-Anon meeting, we discussed the way our housekeeping habits reflected the effects of alcoholism. One person shared that his life felt completely unmanageable unless his house was perfectly neat. Tidiness gave him the illusion of control. Others spoke of floors so strewn with clothes, books, and papers that we could not cross the room without stepping on, tripping over, something I had always considered was just a bad habit until I heard someone share that this clutter was her way of keeping people at a distance, isolating. Then I remembered that in a house where I grew up, clutter had served just that function. I was always afraid to invite friends over because everything was too messy. It was uncomfortable to realize that I was doing the same thing in adulthood that had kept me so isolated as a child. Today's reminder. By taking a fresh look at what I thought of was just a bad habit, I can be free my life of some clutter today. I can consider hidden motives for that habit without condemning myself or my family. Clutter doesn't have to be physical. I may also find areas of my mental, spiritual, or emotional life that are in disarray. I can heal without making moral judgments about myself or others. Now, I love this reading because of the fact I was not someone that had a house that was cluttered. I was, the first part of this reading, I was the person who had a house that was absolutely perfect. And I had learned this from my childhood. And when I was a kid, I rarely had kids over. Once in a while I would, but when most of my friends would come over to my house, I can remember them saying my house looked like a museum. And that wasn't anything that my mom and dad did. That was me going around organizing and completely just, being neurotic about, things being in order. So fast forward to my adulthood, I did the same thing. I had the same anxiety with a certain situation. And my house, again, in order to damper down the anxiety I felt because of the effects of alcoholism with a family member, I did the same thing. My house had to be perfect. This was the only way that I felt, in control and at ease. And obviously I realized now that it was a coping mechanism. So today I am having some of my friends over around noontime, and we are taping the third session of my new TV show, and it's all about just embracing your friendships, not isolating, and really using your friends as the tools to get to a new version of yourself, and not, hiding behind either, if you do the clutter or if you do the house looking like a museum. And it feels good to, talk about this and really embrace that I was one of those people that did that. I can remember people coming over and saying, I would never invite you over to my house, and how bad that used to make me feel. And if they only knew, that my house being perfect was just to damper down my own anxiety with the circumstances that I was dealing with. It wasn't, to make anyone feel comfortable. But I wouldn't let anyone, get close enough to me to reveal those secrets. And this is such a deep topic. It really is. I'm proud of myself that I can admit this on social media and get to a better place of, having friends come over to my house all the time and randomly send me a text and say they're coming. It feels so good that people are comfortable enough, to come over, and I have revealed that vulnerability about Carrie. So as always, I am so grateful for everyone who watches me. It's humbling. I say that every week, but it is. And I hope this gives you the green light to have the courage to change. Thanks for watching.